Hello people, I'm Tr Festus. I'll be taking you through CRE in both primary and secondary school. That is, despite this coronavirus pandemic, learning has to keep on going. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel by pressing the bell icon, down here, so that anytime I upload the lessons, then you'll be able to get notification. Thank you. God bless you. Hello boys and girls. I want us to discuss something about judges in the Bible, that is in the Old Testament. Here I want us to first identify this idea of judges. Where did it come from? Did the people of Israel request for a judge just the same way we discovered they requested to have a king in Israel? Then it's also good for us to identify these judges in the Bible, that is the Old Testament. It's also good for us to identify these judges, which are some of the nations that they fought under which circumstances. So first, the idea of judges in Israel was brought forward by a priest by the name of Jethro. The same Jethro was the father-in-law of Moses. Moses is the one who led the people of Israel from the bondage of bondage of slavery in Egypt. Moses, we are told that after killing an Egyptian, he ran away to Midian. When the Midian was in the forest, Mount Sinai, then he ended up in Jethro's house, in Jethro's family. He became a shepherd, taking care of Jethro's flock. He was rewarded because good work has to be rewarded. So he was given a wife by the name of Zipporah. They had 2 sons. And something funny happens that while taking care of the flock, then God tells Moses to go back to Egypt because he had heard the cry of his people. Go back to Egypt, redeem his people, lead the people from the bondage of slavery. Moses was reluctant. He also gave reasons why he was reluctant. But eventually, after accepting God's call, we are told he was given a very important piece of advice by his father-in-law, who was also a priest. So the priest of Midian, Jethro, gave Moses the advice and told Moses for him to lead the people of Israel effectively because of the number, the population. Then he was to choose elders from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. So those are the fellows who are supposed to pass any information that was given to the people of Israel through Moses. So anytime God gave him information to Moses, then Moses was to call these elders, give them that piece of information, then the message will be spread to the other people. Now, from there we now see the idea of choosing people to assist him in leadership. So somebody asks the learners where the idea of choosing judges came from. And the correct answer has to be Jethro. So when the people of Israel are landing in the promised land under the leadership of Joshua, we are told they did have kings, but God was ruling them theocratically. That means God himself was ruling the people of Israel, but he was using human spiritual leaders. Examples of these human spiritual leaders, we have the priests we have the prophets, then we also have the judges. So anytime God wanted to pass information to the people of Israel, that was his type of leadership, then he was supposed to use either of these people. At times, a combination of them. Then the people of Israel get the information and adhere to the instructions given to them. So that type of leadership where God is leading the people of Israel using human spiritual leaders is what we are calling theocratic type of leadership. So the people of Israel, when they landed in the promised land, they were led by judges. So the first judge of Israel was Othniel. So Othniel was the first judge of Israel. We are also told that Israel also had a woman judge, and that is Deborah. So Deborah was the only woman judge of Israel. The same Deborah, we are told that she was also a prophetess. She was also a prophetess. Then we also have another important icon in terms of judges, that was Samson. For Samson, he was a strong judge, but of a weak character. So if you're told to identify a judge who was strong physically, but character-wise, he was weak, that is Samson. Remember the story of Samson and Delilah. It portrayed his weakness. Then we also have a judge by the name of Jephthah. Jephthah is the judge who offered his daughter as a sacrifice to God. Remember, God does not accept human sacrifice. God does not accept human sacrifice at all. He's the one who gives life, the one who takes. So he can't accept human beings to offer a sacrifice to him in form of a human being. So the judge who offered a sacrifice to God, human sacrifice to God by offering the daughter, that was Jephthah. Then another important judge was Gideon. Gideon was led by the Holy Spirit to fight the Midianites using 300 soldiers. Lastly, we also have this man called Samuel. We are told that Samuel was the last judge of Israel. Samuel was the last judge of Israel. Apart from being a judge, Samuel was also a priest. Samuel was also a prophet. So he has 3 titles. Samuel was the last judge of Israel. Samuel was a priest. Samuel was also a prophet. He's the priest who anointed the first 2 kings of Israel, that is Saul and King David. They were anointed, but this same man we call Samuel. Something else about Samuel, because it's so important in our study, is that the two parents, that is Elkanah was the father, then Hannah was the mother. We are told that Elkanah had 2 wives, that is Hannah and Peninnah. Let's focus on Hannah. Hannah was barren. She could not give birth to children. Because of that, she was humiliated. She was ridiculed by Peninnah. But she was prayerful. She was so prayerful. And in her prayers, she told God to give her a son and dedicate that son to him. It's service of God. And that's where we see now in the process of that prayer, we see now Samuel being born. So something else we should know, that the name Samuel means God has answered, or rather God has heard. Whose prayer was heard? That was Hannah's prayer. It was heard by God. Then God gave her a son. Then she had promised that she will dedicate the son to God. So immediately after winning, then Samuel was dedicated to God. He was taken to the temple. Now, when Samuel was in the temple, you are told that he was under the leadership of the priest by the name of Eli. So we have got two places that as a Christian religious education learner has to know. We have Ramah, then we have Shiloh. Now, the temple was at Shiloh. That means that is where Eli used to reside. So Eli lived at Shiloh. Then Elkanah and his family, that's Elkanah, Penina, Anna, Samuel, they used to live at a place called Ramah. Ramah was the initial name for Bethlehem. So every time they used to go and worship, they could walk, they could move from Ramah to Shiloh to go and worship God, because that is where the temple was. So, under the leadership of Eli, then Samuel was able to learn his responsibilities as a priest. He learned more about God, Yahweh. He learned what he was supposed to do as a priest, as a servant of God. Then we see at a very tender age, God calling Samuel. So the question is, how many times was Samuel called by God? How many times was Samuel called by God when he was under the leadership, under the guidance of priest Eli? Remember, that was in the temple. So God comes, then God calls Samuel. So the correct answer is supposed to be 4 times, but not 3 times. So he was called by God 4 times. He responded the 4th time, and God instructed him. God gave him a message of punishment to the house of Eli, and priesthood was now taken away from Eli and given to Samuel, because the sons of Eli were corrupt and they didn't respect God. So God took away the throne and gave it to Samuel. That is a brief story about this man we call Samuel, who was the last judge of Israel. Apart from that, we also have a number of judges, which I would also like us to identify them. Because someone might ask you, the learner, who among the following is not a judge? So you need to know how these judges are led in Israel. Remember, the first one you said was Othniel, then the last one was Samuel. Other judges of Israel, let's see them. So we have Othniel being the first one. Then we have Ehud. We have Shamgar. We have Deborah. We have Gideon. Abimelech. Abimelech was the son of Gideon. So Abimelech was the son of Gideon. We have Tola. We have Jair. We have Jephthah. We have Ibzan, Elon, Abnon, Samson, and lastly we have Samuel. So those are now the judges of Israel. So from Samuel being the last one, we now see the people of Israel requesting to have a king. They were tired of being led by judges. But because of God's love, we now see the people of Israel being given a king. So remember, when Samuel was old, at a time when he could not see well, then he had chosen his sons to assist him in leadership. That means he had appointed the two sons, Joel and Abijah, to become the next judges of Israel. But because of lack of good leadership qualities, because of being corrupt, because of disrespecting God, then the people of Israel did not like them. That's why they requested, they wanted to have a king, just like the other nations that were surrounding them. Good. So, what I want the learners at home to do, first identify a judge, then identify the nation that judge fought. You identify a judge, then the nation that this judge fought. For example, we've talked of Gideon. Gideon fought which nation? Then you can identify the nation as the Midianites. So just identify the nation, the judge, and the nation that judge fought. Remember, one of the roles of the judges was to lead the people of Israel in battlefields. When they were going for war, then the judges were there to lead them. Another function, they were also to lead the people in religious functions. Religious functions like offering of sacrifices to God. That was their function. Presiding over religious functions. Whenever individuals had scores to be settled, disputes to be settled, then it was also the role of the judges to settle disputes among the people. So please identify these judges, as you've already done, then get the nation that these judges fought. Then you will be safe. Let's continue learning